Oh, there we go. There we go. We'll give people that opportunity to get in. Make sure everything's working. Interested to see. Yeah. What we're going to do is we're just going to press a few buttons because we're just trying something out as well. What we'll do is we'll clear it and we'll do that. There we go. Just getting everything sorted, getting people in. Hope you're all right. If you're joining me early before we officially start, the word on the fridge is headshot. Because it just feels like there's a few of them coming. Just getting things ready as well as we go. There we go. Just letting everything tick its way through. Let people see. Let everybody get in. Have a sip of water. Just try and get this in the good place as well. This is the thing with having moved now from Twitter live to YouTube, is just getting everything ready and making sure everything works. So that's the fun and the games of all this. So just like I said, we'll just give everybody another little moment here just to get it in. And also what we'll do is we'll just make sure that this is shared on all the places it kind of needs to share on. And let's just make sure that things are doing that. There we go. There we go. It's the same old rigmarole. Algorithms are a wonderful thing. We've got to get everything working its way through. Got to make sure everything's clicked in and working. Either way, yeah, definitely checking the time. It's definitely time to get rocking and rolling. Guys, gals, and the gender fluid and all beyond the binary, welcome back. It is Wednesday night. It is 8 p.m. And welcome back once again to the BOTW What's Current stream. My name is Anthony Russell, here to take you through the wonderful, weird, and amazing world that is the National Ice Hockey League and all of its fun and games. We focus here on the What's Current stream on the National Division. It is our bread and butter. It is our home port. But of course, we are here for the next hour or so to go through absolutely everything from the National Division as well as Division 1 and Division 2 in the north and in the south. I hope everybody is doing really, really well this Wednesday evening. Thank you back once again here on YouTube. What is looking like it's going to be our new home for the time being in terms of streaming bits and pieces. Before we kick off with all of the news from across the National Division, we, of course, have our little bit of housekeeping that we need to take care of. And the first thing is, if you're watching live, hello, thank you for joining us. Please do us a favour and quickly go and share this on your social media platform of choice, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook. People getting involved, that's what we like to see. This isn't a monologue, this is a conversation. You, of course, have the live chat feature. And like I say, we're here. Questions, comments, anything you want to chuck in. We, of course, do take questions ahead of time on Twitter, but this live chat function on YouTube, it's a little bit better. It's a little bit easier for everybody to use. So if you've got questions or comments, stick them in the live chat. That's what we're here. That's what we'd like to see. But of course, if you are sticking anything in the live chat, please do remember the golden rule here at the BOTW What's Current stream. DBAD, don't be a dick. Please be respectful of other people's feelings and opinions if you are going to take part in that. And the other bit of housekeeping, of course, that we definitely need to talk about is bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, the website where you can find all of my writing in the last 11 years, and still your number one source for everything related to the Basins at Bison. New piece, of course, went up today. That was our Running with the Herd, our game recap piece from the weekend's Bison home game between the Bison and the Sheffield Steel Dogs, which, of course, we'll touch on a little bit later because this game was really weird. I think I tweeted at the weekend, it was like I spent 3 hours sat in a freezer watching a Monty Python sketch to describe this game, and I didn't lie. It was a very, very odd game. But either way, we've got player comings, player goings, match reports from every game I've attended. as well as our fantastic Hockey Story series. I'm really proud of the stuff I've managed to do as part of Hockey Stories. And of course, the most recent Hockey Stories piece is up there, the Sportle Mess. That was a little investigative piece I did about the EIHA and their replacement system that they've got in terms of things for game management and game sheets and the like. I'm really proud of it, and it's reporting that I think stands up. And I've managed to force the EIHA to kind of speak out a little bit more about some of the mess that the system has been replacing Fixtures Live, moving to Sportle, and some of the issues they've had with it. So really pleased, and that's the kind of thing I love doing. But the stories from across the breadth and depth of ice hockey, going as far back as the 19th century and in coming into the present day, whether it's talking to players, referees, people from around the world of hockey. There's a bit of a British slant to it, of course, because that's where we are, but lots and lots of fun. Lots and lots of fun stuff there for everybody. Hopefully there's something for you to enjoy. There's also the back catalogue of the old BOTW podcast there, as well as Dice Hockey, our tabletop ice hockey simulation game that you can play with your friends at home. But tons of stuff there for you to enjoy over at bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Anyway, it is Wednesday. We have a ton of NIHL news and bits and pieces to talk about. And the thing we should probably start with is, certainly from a national division perspective, there has been a ton of player movement over the last couple of days, whether it was over the weekend itself or whether it was today. As we've had some news, of course, out from bits and pieces today. We'll go back a little bit to the weekend, of course, and one of the bits of news that sort of didn't spring anybody by surprise, particularly if you listen to 4,000 and counting, because Nicky actually talked about it on the show and almost spoiled it for everybody. But that was Matt Smittle. And Matt Smittle announced as leaving the MK Lightning, and he has joined up with the Bees for the remainder of the season. So he leaves MK, comes back to a team playing in Slough, and ultimately, it's a frustrating situation for Matt. I believe I said some bits and pieces about it at the time, that Matt Smittle last year in Milton Keynes really forced his way into being the number one there. It was him and Brandon Stones battling out for that number one position. Smittle won the battle there and was the number one heading into the playoffs. And then we get to Coventry, and Matt just does not have a very good weekend, unfortunately. Didn't look comfortable. Didn't look solid, gave up a lot of goals. Milton Keynes battled their way through. He had, a decent enough recovery with his team sort of rallying around him in the semi-final against Peterborough to pull them into the final. But then on the biggest occasion, he just couldn't, unfortunately, string it together very well. And then it goes into the summer. Smittle agrees to return, but MK then shock the league by drawing Jordan Headley out of the Elite League, a place where he should still probably be, into the NIHL. And that, of course, has meant that Smittle has spent a lot of this season staring at the ice rather than actually being on the ice. And with the sort of stepping away from hockey for the time being of Dan Weller-Evans, that left a space at the Bees. And actually, this is a really, really good situation for Matt. Aside from being at a rink that he knows really well, of course, having come up through the system in Slough, where his dad, Lucas Smittle, legend in British ice hockey, is the coach. And, of course, is where his brother Luke spends the majority of his time as well now, with him being on that two-way contract as well with the Bristol Pitbulls. But this is a rink where Matt isn't just comfortable, but he knows the angles, he knows how the place is going to play, and he's got somebody in Adam Goss that he can learn from, but they can also challenge each other here. This is a really good situation for both of them, because they'll both be challenged, just like Adam was by Dan. But Matt is going to get some ice time here, and you'd hope he's going to force his way into getting some more games rather than an MK, because with all due respect to Matt Smittle, he's not Jordan Headley. Jordan Headley should really have been with a team in the Elite League, looking to split 30-40% of the load. And Matt has unfortunately got virtually none of the load, staring at everything, riding the pine in MK. So great news for him. We then, of course, had the news that Bailey Harewood has left the Telford Tigers. No word as to how particularly massively this will affect anything that he has, because he was on a two-way between Cardiff and Telford, the lone player there, given the fact that the Pitbulls had teamed up with the Cardiff Devils in terms of some two-way bits and pieces. But Bailey's stepping away from Telford for the time being. Unsure at the moment as to where he goes. There is, of course, a lot of speculation about where Bailey Harewood is about to end up. There is nothing I can confirm at this time as we go to air, as we're chatting now live at 8:09 on a Wednesday afternoon. But then, of course, there was other movement out of Bristol. We talk about potential movement in that we have nothing confirmed about. We do have one name that has definitely left, and that is import Alex Roberts. Bristol showing themselves to be the ones being the most ruthless here, cutting an import only a couple of months into the season, an import who was a point per game, but one that hasn't necessarily settled, hasn't done what they necessarily expected him or wanted him to do, and this means that Roberts is now a free agent. Now I know there was a question that I had come through on the Twitter earlier today. I'm just trying to find the name of the person who sent it to me. It was from Sally Sparky023 Rays. So no prizes for guessing where Sally watches her hockey, but she was asking about players potentially coming to Hull, whether I'd had any word about that. I hadn't, it must be said, although Roberts is now suddenly an interesting commodity because we've seen that Alex Roberts has a place in the national division. Now, I think arguably the problem for someone like Alex Roberts is that his style of game is not necessarily suited to being a number 1 or a number 2 guy. 7 plus 11 in 16 games, strange decision from the Pitbulls. It is and it isn't, because the issue here is what were they expecting of Roberts? And I think this is one of those things that that people are kind of overlooking here. Points are not the be-all and end-all for bits and pieces here. The issue for the Pitbulls is they're wanting somebody who's able to do a bit more of a well-rounded game. Alex Roberts has a role, but Alex Roberts is having that role in a group with a very young core, lots of young guys. They're potentially wanting him to do a bit more leading from the front, which is not necessarily Alex's game. Alex is an out-and-out goal-scoring forward when you give him the setup and you give him the space. Now, he's not necessarily getting that at Bristol. They've gotten more in terms of some of those intangible qualities out of Owen Sobchak. I don't think we could deny that. They obviously felt it was important to give Sobchak the captaincy. Roberts on the other hand is not. You hate to use the term one-trick pony, but you don't sign Alex Roberts to be a two-way two-way forward for any particular reason. And actually, maybe given the fact that Bristol core Bristol Grip has suffered a little bit maybe from puck watching, puck following. I've said it a couple of times on here that it feels like sometimes watching Bristol, it's a bit like watching kids play football in the playground. That everybody just kind of follows the puck and doesn't necessarily keep their responsibilities as they should do, and actually maybe they're looking for somebody who's a bit more well-rounded, or everybody is right and everybody's guess of Harewood going to Bristol is going to be correct, but they might free up some money elsewhere. As for Roberts, where does he go now? Having had this conversation about bits and pieces, I was very interested to hear somebody say that they think Roberts will just disappear, and I'll get to that message I can see in the chat from Jamie in a moment. But I wonder, given the fact that they have one import banned and Femar still nowhere, still really nowhere to be seen, and still no word as to what's going on, does he make an appearance in Hull? Roberts is, of course, a defenseman, but I do believe, if I double-check something very, very quickly on my phone, but I do believe that Roberts has a British passport, which would negate the need for a work permit. If I just very, very quickly check that as I'm speaking about it, elite prospects. Because if... so I'm just going to double-check, so I'm pretty certain that Roberts has both passports. I know he's listed as Canadian on elite prospects, but I don't know what his situation is with a work permit, because if Roberts is able, for example, to doesn't have one on being, he has some kind of EU passport to have played in Streatham pre-Brexit, which is a very good point. I was under the impression that he had a British passport in the same way that Joe Rand back in the day had an Estonian passport, which meant he could bop around Europe with no want or favour. But Roberts now needs a job. Hull need a body, and they need someone who can score goals. And Hull have people like James Archer who do some work to kind of get things there. They've got Sam Townend do a bit of work for it as well. Not the worst thing in the world, maybe potentially, but either way, where Roberts ends up yet to be seen. Of course, we'll just touch on this message here from Jamie. Lubuele to Guildford is a rumour I've seen Anthony. Roberts back to Bison. I have not heard a single hide nor hair about Lubuele to Guildford myself. I am very, very interested as to... Let me rephrase that. Could Lubuele do a job for Guildford? Yes, as a third liner, you kind of send Lubuele out to kind of crash and bang around a little bit, especially given the departure of their Swedish import, whose name is now currently escaping me as we're talking. But Would Roberts come back to the Bison? The question here becomes, why did Roberts leave the Bison? And was it purely to do with money, as a lot of the rumours have said, or was it to do with what they wanted out of Roberts? And again, if anybody knows what Alex Roberts offers, it's Ashley Tate. Is it a step backwards to go forwards? Ericsson, thank you. I think it was something along those lines of the chat released by Guildford. But Roberts coming back to the Bison, I don't necessarily know whether it is the best of idea. It's because, and it sounds a little harsh here, has Roberts been solved in the national division? Would the Bison be better off finding somebody who's a bit of an X factor who nobody knows, or do they potentially look, if either Balash or Luwele is released, going back to what they know? Particularly, of course, when you think of the partnership that Roberts and Aidan Doughty put together on power play. With 2 D-men out, could Roberts being cut allow the Pitbulls to bring in an import D-man and have Harewood replace him? It does offer that option, of course, and the fact that you're allowed both imports on the ice now, where previously you weren't in NIHL play, Sigala, that is an option. The issue, of course, for Bristol is, who are they going to find? And this is a big question, actually, with a lot of bits and pieces. I've spoken to Bison fans over the last couple of days who are obviously frustrated with how things are in Basingstoke, but it's a question actually for a lot of different people in a lot of different places. If you cut player X, who's player Y that replaces them? Because the pool is finite, and it's not just a case of grabbing a body, unless you're the Bees, of course, and you call Scott Spearing out of retirement. But the options as to who you can get in are limited. Now, I was having this conversation earlier with Thomas Graham from the Wildcast. He's in the chat, of course. But coaches are going to start to need to be brave. If they're wanting people to fill these gaps, there's players in Div 1, and, the Bison have got 2 guys out of Division 2. If you're wanting spaces filled, you need to call people into it. Suster's still clubless. He is indeed, though I was under the impression, Kev, that he was training with the Phantoms still, and unknown what the situation there. Though, of course, the issue there with with Suster's, I don't know whether he goes anywhere else. And there we go. But this is what it is. It's it is what it is on that front. Apologies, I've just been sent a message. Apologies, just been sent a message there that I'm just very, very quickly going to respond to whilst we're chatting. So questions and comments and everything else like that in there. Just going to very, very quickly respond to this. Not normally what I do. Apologies, like I say, he's regularly at our games. This Susters, yeah. And the thing with Susters, I find that he obviously sort of disappeared and went back and forth a little bit. I wonder what he's waiting for in terms of jumping back in. Is it Peterborough? Is it wanting to commit to Peterborough? Is he just not able to commit to the national division at the moment? I find that quite interesting. There we go. There we go. Apologies from that. The looking at the stats, you can see where Phantoms are second in the league. You can, yeah, you definitely can see it, and it's not an unusual thing there. Apologies there, a bit of outside life needing to sort of needingly come into what was going on there in terms of chat. Either way, let's have a quick look at the national division from last weekend. No Friday games, of course. Which means we start back with Saturday. Bison 1, Sheffield 2 from Saturday evening. Just a bizarre game. I'm not going to go too much into it now, but the report is there. It's just gone live on bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Lots of discussion out of Basingstoke about the officiating, and ultimately, as with a lot of games, sometimes it's really easy and sometimes actually it's entirely appropriate to point a finger at the officials and kind of say they've ruined this. But actually, it's one of those things of like the players do the things, right? The players do the things. The referee doesn't spear someone. The referee doesn't check someone in the head. Referee doesn't punch anybody. Referee doesn't do any of those things. Those are the players. Where is the line of has a referee lost control of the game? And I think it just kind of fell sideways off that line. I think some people obviously feel it's one way. I don't necessarily agree with them on that. From Sheffield goals from Matt Bissonette and Vlad's Volkanov's. Volkanov's goal in particular was really impressive because of a no-look pass from Lewis Bell from behind the net, which he connected with. The lone Bison goal there from Marcel Balach as the Bison's poor run continues. Just managed to press the wrong button there. Bristol 3, Peterborough 6. So another decent win on the road there for the Phantoms. A couple from Lewis Lukovsky, Ralph Sisenis, Brad Bowring, Alish Padlek with a couple, and an empty net goal for Glenn Billing. Owen Sobchuk, just trying to double check who's Tamas Elias as well, scoring for the Pitbulls. Who scored the other goal for the Pitbulls? I've completely missed who scored the first one. Alex Roberts. There we go. There we go. Apologies. Alex Roberts actually scoring before he disappeared off there. And then we end up with Milton Keynes and their 4-1 win over Telford. A decent win there for MK. Tim Wallace, David Sarkanis, Sam Talbot and Callum Field with the goals there for MK. Vladimir Luka with the lone goal for Telford. Telford have been a really interesting side to watch this year. And I mean, obviously they did all right on Sunday, coming back from 3-1 against Basingstoke to get the win there. But obviously no Weaver, no Fielder, and I mean Weaver is obviously a bigger loss in that sort of sense than Fielder is. Deacon's much more of a defence guy, but obviously he's sort of very solid. What do people make of Telford? I just can't quite place them at the moment, if you see what I mean. And obviously the departure of Harewood is an interesting one. They've brought in Andy McKinney with D-side not playing games at the moment because of bits and pieces. Norris actually got the first. Anthony was changed in the third. I didn't see that. This is the problem at the moment, Jamie. I'm working off of what's on the social media of all of the teams, so I apologise on that front. All of your fans are going to be grumpy when they read the Bison website on that. But either way, another win for MK as they look to keep pace towards the top of the table there. And then Swindon and Leeds gave everybody a bit of a treat, didn't they? goals, and goals. Compared to some of the other games. From the outside, I wonder if Telford have stuck with what they know and has worked one too many times. Not unreasonable, I'd say, Mara. I think that's I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to say. But again, Telford are in a really interesting physical location in terms of getting guys in, because they're too far north for some of the guys in the south. They're too far west for some of the guys in like Milton Keynes and Peterborough, and they're too far south for some of the guys right up in the north. But I think they're just in transition, lost key guys, and probably not the ones they expected to. Telford, that is. Yeah, of course, they probably didn't expect to lose Austin Mitchell-King to Peterborough. That was definitely a bit of a surprise for them. So, yeah, no, I can kind of see that. But yeah, Swindon 5, Leeds 10. I'm not going to run through all the goal scorers because that game was just ridiculous. But another really bad, really heavy home defeat for Swindon, who, like Basingstoke, just kind of feel a bit sort of all over the place at the moment. It's almost easier in some ways to kind of deal with what the Bison are doing, because the Bison haven't yo-yoed. They've just been bad and haven't won games. Swindon have whiplashed all over the shop, from wins to losses, and decent wins to bad losses to good wins to narrow losses. And I just don't understand what we're watching with Swindon right now. I joked to Ben, obviously, a little while ago about Ben Callahan having to do all these interviews with Aaron Nell, and Ben said, he's proud to do them, but it must be getting very weird to keep having these conversations with Aaron Nell, who doesn't seem to change an awful lot of what he says week in, week out. 10 goals and 25 shots for Leeds is, I'm not sure whether the game sheet, the Spordle one, I'm not sure was fully up to date on that, but the 10 on 25, and I'm pretty certain both netminders playing that game, is pretty terrifying if you're a Swindon fan as well. And then, of course, the big result from Saturday, we definitely need to talk about it. Our Leeds are a bit good when it comes to shooting the puck, just a bit. And then, of course, a first home win for the Hull Seahawks. They finally get themselves over the line, a 6-3 victory for them over the Bees at the world's most versatile arena. Didn't start too well for the Seahawks, it should be said. 2-0 down early on. Juha Lindgren scoring after just 11 seconds, and then James Galazzi getting on the board. The other goal. The other goal was from Juha Lindgren, but goals in there, but 2 goals in the space of 20 seconds from Declan Balmer, a goal from James Archer, 2 goals from Bobby Streetley, and another goal from Nathan Salem, giving the Seahawks their first win at home. They have one on the road. They have won at home. Finally, congratulations to Matty Davies and all of the guys connected with the Seahawks. Finally for Hull, yeah, very, very much so. God bless their little hearts. They are. It's been fun to watch them do that. 5 on Mar, 5 on 10, Skins 5 on 15. Ow! Those are not pretty numbers to read if you're a Swindon fan. And then, of course, we're heading to Sunday, and Swindon, they lost again, but they only lost 5-4 this time. But that is pretty devastating for Swindon to concede 15 goals in 2 games. They lose 5-4 away at Peterborough. And Peterborough were, of course, they nearly chucked this one away. They were 4-0 up inside 25 minutes. 2 goals from Lucas Zadkowski, 1 from Jasper Foster, and 1 from Duncan Spears, having them ahead. Tomasz Malazinski and Colby Tower sparking a bit of a comeback before Spears got his second of the night. And then Malazinski, and we believe Sam Bullis. It wasn't said, and my conversations with people, including Tom Graham, did not give me 100% who scored that last goal. But time ran out on the Wildcats there. Peterborough with another 4-point weekend. They are, of course, going great guns so far. Having lost the night before, the Pitbulls got themselves back in the winning column, and it's another shootout win over the Bees. This time in Slough. Reece Kelly with the overall penalty shot winner after Owen Sobchak and Brendan Walker had found the net. Will Curley making the crucial saves in the stretch there to do what needed to be done. But the Bees get another vital point in their quest to get anywhere near the playoff places. Hull and Leeds meeting on a Sunday to decide who would get a 4-point weekend. That's not a sentence we've had to say very long when it comes to our friends with the Seahawks. But of course, as you could expect, the 2 points stay very firmly at the Castle. 4-1 win for the Knights in this one. 2 goals from Jordan Brown, from Kieran Brown. Matt Hayward and Cole Shudra with the other one there. The lone goal for the Seahawks coming from Cam Hamill. And then the Raiders with their only game of the weekend, taking on the MK Lightning over in Romford. And it was a good night for Ashley Jackson. 2 goals for the Raiders and the man of the match. But unfortunately, MK wins 6-2 if you're a Raiders fan. Tim Wallace, Sean Norris, Liam Stewart, another one from Wallace, and then a second from Liam Stewart and one from Max Stewart to keep things going there for the Lightning. So we'll very, very quickly just have a quick squint at the tables. Swindon have Bristol, Lightning and Phantoms in December as well. The hardest double away weekend in the league. Good luck, Swindon. Yeah, it's going to be a very, very tough one. Swindon's schedule at times feels like it's been a real kicker in the teeth. Either way, we'll quickly look at the National Division table, which sees, unsurprisingly, given they've only dropped 1 point per year, Leeds are still top, 31 points from their 16 games, closely followed by Peterborough, who have 28 from 17, and MK, who have 27 from 17. Quick little bit of a drop down there, a 4-point gap to the Sheffield Steel Dogs, who are in 4th. They have 23 from 16, followed by Telford, who've played 19 games but only have 20 points. So a real gap there, an opportunity for Sheffield to really pull away in terms of getting playoff positioning. Raiders in 6th, they have 17 from 16, followed by Swindon, 16 from 16. Bristol have 12 from 17. Basingstoke, after their loss to Telford on Sunday, 11 from 17. Closely followed up by the Bees. They have 10 points, but they have played a game more. They've played 18. Hull are bottom, of course. 4 points from their 19 games. They are 2 and 17, with only the 30 goals scored so far. Questions, comments, anything anybody kind of wants to chuck in there? Any news on Adam Jones? I'm guessing he's injured. He's still very much injured, is my understanding of that. It was a tough. It's not really confirmed kind of what's going on. And certainly Adam Jones. It would be great for the Bison to kind of give an update as to what's going on there. They're not going to. It's not very like the Bison to comment on the specificity of injuries, just that he's injured. It is what it is. Jones was in the building on Saturday night, so hopefully, potentially, that's him edging towards being fit again. He is, of course, an assistant coach for the club, so unknown what's happening there. Do we think anyone will be able to stop Leeds from winning everything this year? Yes, because the issue with the playoffs and the cup, particularly the semi-finals, because let's face it, Leeds are going to make the semis, is anything can happen in a single game of hockey. As we saw, Leeds have dropped a point because they were 6-2 up and blew a lead. So they certainly are odds-on favourites for the league right now. I don't think anybody would bet against them. Most bookmakers would stop taking the bet. But all it takes is one slip-up. They are only 3 points ahead of the Phantoms. They're 4 points ahead of MK. It's 2 games. 2 games in the right place. Hasn't he joined the fire service, or was that someone else within the Tigers? You might be confusing Dan Scott of the Raiders, who has left and retired from hockey to join the fire service recently. But yeah, same Jonathan Weaver in Telford as well. Yeah, I mean, to be fair to Weaver, Weaver's in his 40s. Adam Jones is in his mid-20s. It's more of a confusion as to where Adam Jones is than Jonathan Weaver. Weaver being hurt is just a thing, unfortunately, at his age. It's just sort of a side effect of the job as much as anything else. What we will do very quickly, actually, because we're on YouTube now, having been on Twitter for such a long period of time, we're just going to bash through very quickly the fixtures for the National Division. We're just going to do things that way rather than doing everything completely together at the end. He says just very quickly pulling up the fixtures for the National Division for this coming weekend. And of course, we are under the Friday night lights. It's going to be tons and tons of fun in Basingstoke this Friday. An 8 p.m. face-off in Basingstoke on Friday evening for the Bison and the Milton Keynes Lightning. That's League and Cup. Then into Saturday, the 19th of November, and the Bison are on the road on Saturday for the first time in quite some time. They have a 7 p.m. face-off away in Bristol against the Pitbulls. 6:30 p.m. face-off up in Leeds in what is a league-only game. The Knights host the Telford Tigers. And MK will head home on Saturday. 7 p.m. face-off for the Lightning. They take on the Raiders. Peterborough face-off at 7 o'clock at home. They take on the Bees. And it's a 6:30 face-off at the Link for the Swindon Wildcats and the Sheffield Steel Dogs. That takes us into Sunday the 20th, a 1 p.m. face-off at Ice Sheffield on Sunday. 1 p.m. face-off for the Sheffield Steel Dogs and the Peterborough Phantoms. We thought the 4 p.m. face-offs, 4:30 p.m. face-offs were early. You ain't going to get much earlier than that when it comes to a National Division face-off, I venture. 5 p.m. face-off at the Hangar for the M4 derby between the Bees and the Swindon Wildcats. 5:15 at Sapphire Ice and Leisure in Romford for the Raiders and the Bristol Pitbulls. 5:30 at the World's Most Versatile Arena, the Seahawks and the MK Lightning for their third game of the weekend. And then a 6 p.m. face-off, as is traditional on Sundays in Shropshire, the Telford Tigers and the Leeds Knights. So a few big games there. Really interested to see how the Bison can respond, if they can respond, against Milton Keynes on Friday evening. Not the team you want to. 1 p.m. in Sheffield because the Steelers are at the arena at 4. I mean, that's a fair enough reason to do it. Certainly if you're Sheffield, if you're the Steel Dogs, doing it before and kind of asking people to do a bunch of hockey from maybe 1 p.m. to 7 is probably easier than asking them to do it from 4 till 10 or something like that. So relatively straightforward on that one. Apologies again, that message has come up. But yeah, so no, fair enough. OT. Well done, John. I'm not sure what you tried to say there. That's my mistake. There we go. But yeah, so obviously a fair bit going on there. But yeah, just kind of going back to that point on Leeds, all it takes for Leeds to have an issue, you'd think, is one of a couple of guys getting hurt. What happens if Gospel goes down injured and Harrison Walker needs to pick up the load? What if Grant Cooper gets hurt? Who steps in and fills that gap? Or Brown gets hurt, or Shudra gets hurt. Leeds can lose one piece at a time, potentially, but if they lose more than one, what happens? Like I say, I don't like watching Peterborough, but we can't argue about how good they are this year, so we're not going to. And MK have got wave after wave of attack. Interesting weekend for MK. A triple header followed by 2 one-game weekends. Yeah, crazy, isn't it? Some of the scheduling this year has been very, very wonky. But some guys like playing a lot. I remember very clearly Aaron Connolly talking about when the Bison won the EPL back in 2016. That I think they had something like crazy, like they had about 6 games in 11 days, something stupid like that. And it's like, aren't you guys knackered? And he was like, no, we want to keep rolling. We want to keep rolling and rolling and rolling. And some teams are good like that. This will be a good marker for MK of can they keep pace? Because if they get 6 from 6, massive step forward for them. 4 from 6 even, pretty decent. 4 or 5 from 6, pretty decent. If they only get 2 from 6, what happens there? MK now in an interesting situation. If Headley gets hurt, who was needed by Coventry for any real period. Again, yeah, that was potentially the idea about keeping Matt Smithell around for so long. But Smithell needs to play. Obviously, Headley needs to play. That's why that's probably why he felt the need to come to MK, because no elite league side was going to trust him enough to take enough of the workload where he felt like he was playing and developing. But the issue then is that you're keeping another young guy, younger than Headley, waiting in the wings and not really playing him when they probably could have done more than they did. And ultimately, yeah, potentially with that, Matt Smithell, unless something went catastrophically right, was never going to get the starts during down the stretch during the playoffs. But could they have done more? How many games have Milton Keynes played so far? They played 19, 18, sorry. They played, I did have the table up there. How many Milton Keynes played? Milton Keynes played 17 games. Do you mean to tell me that 4 or 5 of those couldn't have gone the way of Smithell? Maybe not. So yeah, it's a tough one, that one. But yeah, MK need Jordan Headley now to be fit. I think is probably the issue there. Anyway, we'll move on briefly from the National Division. Of course, do keep sticking your comments and questions down there in the chat. We'll have a look at those quickly. GB under 20 Netty Dan Crow is coming to replace Smithell in MK, which is fair enough. I haven't watched a lot of Dan Crow, so I can't comment too much on him. Now that Headley is playing in the National League, does Gospel get a legit shot at making the GB squad as the third netminder, or Brython Priest for that matter? You think they defer to Headley? You think Pete Russell would defer to Headley because he knows what he's getting? I think Gospel is a better netty, and I don't think that's much of a debate. But it's easier to be in. It's easier to be the guy on the in and harder to get him out than it is to be on the out coming in, if you see what I mean. I don't think, frustratingly for Sam Gospel, who again is another guy who probably should be in the elite league. It would take something, I think, for him to kind of step over Headley to be the number 3 guy for GB right now. And yeah, it's nothing against Jordan. Jordan's a fantastically talented netminder. I personally just think Gospel is better than him. Right, let's quickly head then into Division 1 in the North, because there weren't tons and tons of games from last weekend. Certainly only a couple. There was only 1 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday. The one on Saturday being in Blackburn, of course, still under their little bit of the cloud. No words on the completion of any investigation about Mr. Lomax so far. And not a good night either for the Hawks. They lose 4-1 at home to the Billingham Stars. We're still keeping up place in that third place. Still making a push to get a really good playoff draw come the end of the season so far, Billingham, as they maybe are just that little step away from Whitley and from Solway. Then on Sunday, our friends the Nottingham Lions, of course, the unofficial second team here of the What's Current stream, they had travel over to Hobbsmoat Road, but it's an 8-2 win for the Solihull Barons. They knock off the Nottingham Lions quite handily there at home. And then Blackburn, well, their weekend didn't get any better. They lose 4-3 away on Merseyside against the Widnes Wild. So leading up into this coming weekend, actually in North One, just again the one game on the Saturday, and it's the big one in North One. And if you've been watching this show for a while, you'll know what I mean when it comes to North One and big games. 7 p.m. this Saturday, the 19th of November, at the Dumfries Ice Bowl. Solway Sharks, Whitley Warriors. Winner will be top. We know the Warriors. We'll look at the table in a second. Of course, the Warriors were just ahead at this point in the season so far. A massive game in terms of the context of the title. Sunday the 20th, then Whitley, having been in Solway the night before, they'll be back home at Hillheads to take on Blackburn. A 5:30 face-off for Widnes at home against the very faltering Sheffield Scimitars. And then our friends, the Nottingham Lions, they'll be at home live on YouTube, 7:15 p.m. They are at home against the high-flying Billingham Stars on Sunday, which means we will just quickly look then at the table for North 1. So in terms of the table, like we said, that game on Saturday coming up, Solway versus Whitley, massive, massive game in the context so far of where the title could potentially go. Both teams have played 12 games. Whitley top with 22, Solway second with 21. A win, of course, would send Solway top and give them the tiebreaker over the Warriors. Third place then is Billingham. Like I said, they've had a really good start to the season so far. 18 points. They have played 13 games, which is the most out of anybody combined, along with Nottingham. Fourth place then, Solihull, of course, their big win over Nottingham this week has given them 13 from 11. Widnes, 12 from 11. Nottingham then in sixth. They have 8 from 13. Blackburn, 8 from 12, though Nottingham hold the tiebreaker over the Hawks so far. D-side, of course, the issues have come out there. Rink is still not ready for them to get rocking and rolling. They are effectively on pause until the new year. Only the 6 games played, 2 points for the D-side Dragons. And the Scimitars, well, they've got 1 point from 12 games. It really has been a tough start to the year so far for the Scimitars. Pop ourselves to there. Let's just have a quick look at the comments. All the crossover cup chats. Finn, Braid, and Hype Train gathering steam. Billingham Youth Movement paying dividends early. Yeah, very, very much so. I think for me, the Billingham's schedule to start the year wasn't super easy either. It's not like they've just sort of been rotating playing like Blackburn, Nottingham, and Sheffield so far. They haven't gotten points off of. They didn't get tons of points off of lots of the big teams, but they did knock off Solway. That was a massive, massive win for Billingham. The youth movement, like you say, Mara, is starting to pay dividends for them. Can they drag themselves into that title conversation? You'd think they might be a year off that, but maybe next year, potentially as well, if Solway or Whitley, who arguably should be in the National Division, stay in Division 1 North, do we have a 3-way race for the title rather than a 2? And Billingham, of course, with the way things go, like we talked about Leeds in the National, Billingham could easily spring a surprise when the playoffs come around at the end of the year for Division 1 North. We'll quickly drop down then to the south. Our friends in the our friends down in Division 1 South. So looking back to last weekend, last Saturday, a pretty decent win for the Romford Junior Raiders. They win 6-2 at home against the Invicta Dynamos. It was the Slough Jets pajama toss game this weekend against Chelmsford, of course, getting pajamas donated for the Children's Hospital Pajamas charity, but not the result that Jets fans would have wanted. They did get the goal so that those pajamas could be thrown, but a 5-3 win for Chelmsford at the Hangar last Saturday. And then Oxford welcomed Streatham. You can imagine how that went. An 8-1 win for the Redhawks at Oxpens. And then if you wanted goals, you thought 9 goals was bad enough in Oxford. 13 goals down in Gosport. A 7-6 win for the Solent Devils at home against the MK Thunder. 4-4 after the first period. That game, goals galore. And then on Sunday, just the 2 games. A good win for Chelmsford on Saturday. They headed home, but they lose 4-2 to the Solent Devils, and that was a league only game. And then in the Southern Cup, Invicta made up for their poor Saturday evening. They went home and had a big Southern Cup 9-3. The final score. The Invicta Dynamos win over the Oxford City Stars. We then look, of course, towards the fixtures for this weekend before we look at the table. A couple of games on Saturday in South 1. One game in the league, that is Solent versus Invicta. That is a 5 p.m. face-off at Gosport. And then one game in the Southern Cup on Saturday. The Streatham Redhawks taking on the Chelmsford Chieftains. That's a 5:30 p.m. face-off on the High Road. Sunday the 20th, then 5:15 in the league is the face-off timing in Gillingham for the Dynamos taking on the Streatham Redhawks. And the other league game is a 6:45 p.m. face-off, the MK Thunder taking on Solent at the Thunderdome. There is one game in the Southern Cup on Sunday. Chelmsford take on the Oxford City Stars. That's a 6 p.m. face-off at the Riverside. Just putting up the table then very quickly for South 1. In terms of the cup bits and pieces, well, Streatham not quite out of it yet. Invicta have qualified 6 points from six games played. Oxford have 6 from 5. Chelmsford 4 from 4. Streatham 4 from 5, given their overturned games. But Streatham are not out of it yet, but they still need results to go their way. The other group in the Southern Cup sees Solent have qualified. They have 5 from 5 and they are top. Slough have played 3 and have won 2 of them, so they have 4 points. MK 2 from 5. Romford 2 from 5. So the race for that second spot in Group B in the Southern Cup still very much on. In the league itself, Slough are still top because they've played more games than anybody else in the league so far. They have 12 points from 10 games, but the two teams very hot on their heels. Streatham have 12 from 7, Solent 12 from 8. So Slough's time at the top of the table is probably nearing an end, it must be said. The drop down then to Chelmsford, they have 8 points from 8 games played. Romford 7 from 6, Invictus 6 from 8, Oxford 4 from 8. MK Thunder still bottom of the league table, but they've only played 5 games. They have 3 points in league play. Oh, dear me, just trying to knock that water at speed. And then into Division 2, and we'll start with our friends in the north from last weekend. Not tons and tons of games played, just the one on Saturday. In North 2, and a very close, very tight affair between the Telford Tigers and the Bradford Bulldogs. League and Cup action, but a 4-3 win for the Tigers, still keeping up that pressure as they look to retain their league title. Sunday then 2 games. One was a League and Cup tie, and it's a 5-3 win for the Altrincham Aces. They beat the Sheffield Titans there. And then in the league game, you might have watched a bit of it on YouTube. It was live on YouTube. The Nottingham Lions NIHL 2 side against the Telford Tigers. And well, the Nottingham Lions too have fared a little bit better than their older counterparts. They've had an okay start to the season. Final score from Nottingham's Lions second team 3, Tigers 16. That is going to do a world of good for the goal difference potentially if that starts to come into play. We know how tight things are between the Tigers and the Hull Jets when it comes to that North 2 title, and having a plus 13 goal difference from one game probably going to help a little bit. Looking ahead to this weekend, then in North 2, both of our title contenders there very much are in action on Saturday. 5:30 p.m. face-off at Hull for the Jets versus the Bradford Bulldogs. The Bulldogs are a decent side. Could they spring a surprise here and really help Telford out? The Tigers themselves, they're at home at 7 p.m. on Saturday. They take on the Altrincham Aces. Both of those games are league only. Sunday then, the 20th, 2 games, both league and cup combined affairs. A 5:10 face-off at Ice Sheffield. For the Sheffield Titans, they take on the Nottingham Lions. And a 7 p.m. face-off at the Skydome. The Coventry NIHL Blaze will take on the Telford Tigers. League and Cup action there. Should be very, very should be an interesting one, that one. I'd love to get to the Skydome and watch the NIHL Blaze. NIHL Blaze and do things that way. It's a bit of a strange one there. Let's have a quick look at the table. For NIHL 2. Looking at the Cup, in Group A, Telford and Sutton have already qualified for the semi-finals there. We already knew this. Coventry and Bradford out due to their records. And we have our 2 qualifiers from Group B. Hull and Altrincham have made their way through by virtue of their record. Sheffield and Nottingham miss out on the Cup semi-finals there. In the league itself, well, it's still very much on the table at the moment. Telford, top of the table, 20 points from 11 games. Hull, 16 from 9. So, of course, those 2 wins for the Jets would put them on level points with the Tigers. A bit of a drop down then to 3rd place. Altrincham have 12 from 10. Sutton, 12 from 12. The Sheffield Titans, 9 from 11. Nottingham, 7 from 10. Coventry, 7 from 10 as well. And Bradford, they are bottom, but there's definitely some competitive hockey being played in this division. 6 points from 9. They have the same amount of regulation wins as Nottingham, as Coventry, but both the Lions and the Blaze have overtime losses to their name. Bradford, having played 1 game less, do not. So still potential for Bradford to haul themselves off of the bottom of the table in North 2. Not a good weekend for the unofficial second team of the stream. No. Certainly it was, obviously not good for the Nottingham Lions 2 side, very, very much so. But yeah, between the 2 sides, what's that? 16, what's that, 20, 24 goals conceded between the two Lions teams this weekend. Definitely not the sort of numbers you want to see. But it's all about the learning process for that lot, as you well know. Matt Bradbury will be upset, but he will not be overly broken-hearted about such things. We then head down into South 2. And plenty of action from last weekend, and plenty of goals as well. A couple of games from Saturday. One game that was league only from Saturday, a 5-2 win for the Chelmsford Warriors against the Oxford Rising Stars. And then the two league and cup combined games, well, two shutouts as well. Cardiff had a 7-0 win at home in Cardiff Bay against the Lee Valley Lions, and then a massive win for the Haringey Huskies at home in front of a packed Ali Pally, a 10-0 win for the Huskies against the Basingstoke Buffalo. Not to be outdone, a shutout the following night for the Peterborough Phantoms. They win 6-0 away in Oxford against the Rising Stars. And Guildford have been a bit shaky so far this season at times. Not quite the dominant, all-conquering force they have been of years past, but a solid 5-2 win for the defending Grand Slam champions away in Swindon against the Wildcats. Looking ahead then to this upcoming weekend, a fair few, only the one game to be played on Saturday, only one scheduled at any rate. That's down in Gillingham. That's a 5:15 face-off between the Invicta Mustangs and the Bristol Pitbulls. Sunday the 20th, no confirmed face-off time, but it'll probably be 6 o'clock for the Basingstoke Buffalo as they welcome Haringey looking to try and get some measure of revenge for getting slapped 10-0 at Ali Pally. A 6 p.m. face-off in Gosport for the Solent Junior Devils against the Chelmsford Warriors. 6:15 in Oxford for the Rising Stars against the Cardiff Fire. And 6:45 on the high road, the South London versus North London, Streatham versus Lee Valley. So we'll have a quick look at the table for South 2 as well. 6:30 p.m. in Basingstoke on the OHA website. They've shuffled things around every so often. They occasionally do that for the Buffalo, but not to be seen there. But yeah, 6:30. That's what it says on the IHA website. We'll go with that. In the South 2 Cup, Invicta having only played 4 cup games. They top Group A at the moment. 8 from 4. Guildford 8 from 6. Followed Bristol 6 from 3. Peterborough 6 from 5. Oxford 2 from 4, Swindon 2 from 5, and Solent, of course, are winless so far this season. They have no points. In Group B, 4 from 4 in the cup for Streatham. Look like they could be well on their way to qualifying for the next stages. Chelmsford 6 from 6, Cardiff 4 from 5, Haringey 4 from 3, Basingstoke 2 from 3, and of course our friends from Lee Valley 0 points so far in the cup table. And then we look towards the actual league table itself, and well, Bristol still there, still hanging around, having missed out on action this weekend. Their game, of course, being cancelled due to illness within the squad, but they still sit top, 18 points from 10 games, 73 goals scored as well by the Pitbulls so far. Invicta are second, 16 from 9, followed by the defending champions Guildford. They have 16 from 10, having had 2 regulation losses already this season. Haringey 4th, they have 15 from 10. Streatham only 8 games played so far in the league. They have 14 from 8, so still very much in the running there. Cardiff 10 from 12, Peterborough 10 from 9, and Oxford 9 from 12 rounds out the playoff places. Outside looking in at the moment then, Chelmsford 8 from 9, Basingstoke 4 from 8, Swindon 4 from 7, and then Lee Valley and Solent both on 0 points. But Lee Valley leaping above Solent at the moment. But Solent, of course, with the higher ceiling, having only played 8 games, they have the potential with those games in hand to find a point from somewhere and route Lee Valley to the bottom of the table for the wooden spoon once again. But there we go. We've gone through all 5 divisions of the NIHL and had at least had a look at all of our results. It'd be much better to be able to do this with game sheets. But then again, we all know why we don't have game sheets properly for bits and pieces, because Sportle is not here yet, and all we can get is even then, the National League has been testing it, the National Division has been testing it, and not every team has put their game sheets live on Sportle for us to even look at them. Obviously, we did see earlier from the chat that people do like the look of Sportle. I like the look of Sportle too. I really wish they did the proper timings on the goals rather than sort of running them down from the game clock. I believe Swindon had 15-year-old Ben Clark Leach in there. That's a That's a crazy thing. 15-year-olds, I wasn't sure 15-year-olds were allowed to play NIHL. I thought that'd be 16. Maybe you got dispensation. You'd have to, I think, to play in the NIHL as a 15-year-old. I believe I was of the impression you had to be 16 to play now. But then again, they will give dispensations for netminders and bits and pieces and things like that. So we will, these things do happen. Just very quickly, going to pull up Twitter as people are chatting about bits and pieces, just seeing if we've missed any news as we're talking away. Not anything I can immediately see. I can see that this coming Saturday, Solway against Whitley. Solway are doing a game used stick raffle. You can win Callum Boyd's stick. So for those of you up north who are interested in such things, that might be of interest to you. Otherwise, we don't appear to have any extra news so far. But there we are. We've gone through everything. Questions, comments, anything anybody wants to sort of chuck in bits and pieces. Obviously, a lot of hockey being played right now. The New Jersey Devils are tearing up the NHL. Terrifying sight on bits and pieces. But yeah, there's lots of a fair few bits all going on. Of course, European season sticking away. Kids go free on for Phantoms Saturday night. Always a good promotion to get rocking and rolling. And also, given the fact that Phantoms have had to raise their ticket prices at times during this season, that's a big thing that they're in a point where they feel that they're able to do that. So good on the Phantoms for having a crack at that one. Yeah, obviously, very few bits and pieces. I see there's been a bit of discussion today as well regarding Liam Kirk and his lack of playing time in Arizona as to what's happening there. Pass. I haven't been following those much of the American League this year. Fantastic though it is. For those of you, of course, who watched my stream last Friday, where I opened up that box of NHL cards. Upper Deck also make AHL cards, and the AHL cards last year were really, really nice. If they do, and it was at a really good price point as well. I think it was 12 packs, 10 cards a pack in the hobby box for AHL last year, and it was like 50 something quid, which is a very, very good price to get some really, really nice looking cards if you're interested in such a thing, and get a trading card of a potential future superstar as well. So I think something like 80% of NHL players have come through the AHL. So there's stuff to be had. Lightning attendance last Saturday was 2,152. I don't think anyone will beat that in the National League. No, probably not. We're not going to get that sort of attendance until we get towards Coventry for playoff weekend, which hopefully will be a roaring success. Obviously, as well, one of the things we probably need to talk about, obviously, bans and bits and pieces. We are waiting on some disciplinary decisions. Hull have said, of course, they will appeal the 10-game suspension to Emil Svek. We await word from the EIHA's discipline committee on that. But of course, there were a couple of hits to the head over the weekend as well. Tyler Plews given a match penalty for a check to the head. Liam Morris given a match penalty for a check to the head in the Bison game against Sheffield. Charlie Thompson given a match penalty as well for spearing in that game. So we will see what happens as regards to them from this weekend. And then, of course, we have the complete contrast of the fact that a couple of hits to the head penalties in the Elite League getting one game. Brett Ferguson's in particular from the Coventry versus Guildford game. The fact that's only got a one game, and when you think that Emil Svek ended up with 10 bizarre decisions between the Elite League's Department of Player Safety and the EIHA's disciplinary committee. The other thing as well, and I'm sure it will probably go live on their podcast feed at some stage, it's definitely still on the Facebook if you want to check it out, I was on 4,000 and Counting, and this time I was on 4,000 and Counting being interviewed by Nicky rather than me interviewing him, which we've done a couple of times in the past. So we talked about the Spordle piece in detail, talked about just stuff to do with the NIHL, what I think about the Bison so far. We went for like nearly 2 hours. It was a pretty long conversation. But if you guys know anything about me, my regular viewers will know I can talk a fair bit. So obviously a fair bit going on there. I'm just enjoying my hockey so far. The only thing that's irking me so far at the moment is I've got a piece where I'm waiting for it to be signed off by the employers of the person that it's about. because it's one of those kind of pieces where I need to get that done, and they're just very, very busy, and they just haven't given me word either way about it so far, which is a little bit annoying because it's a really good article, and I kind of really want to publish it, but I have to wait my time on that one. But it'll be in Hockey Stories. It'll be coming when it comes, and we will when that's able to go live, I will let it go live. So hopefully that'll be one to enjoy. But until then, you can still read up all the stuff about Sportal so far. I think the other thing as well with that is that there's clearly some bits and pieces going on with the IHA, and don't think I'm not paying attention to it either. So I will keep my eyes open when I'm in a position to kind of report more stuff. I will report more stuff. I think is probably the thing. I think sometimes people like talking about rumor and speculation and so on and so forth. And I think that's fine. I don't have an issue necessarily sort of talking about rumors and stuff. Like obviously a lot of chat today about Bailey Harewood potentially going to Bristol. Now I can't confirm anything either way, so I'm not going to say it's a yes or a no. Speculation is fine. You can have a bit of a laugh and a bit of a giggle about such things, but I'm not going to report something in the way I've reported the Sportal stuff unless I am 100% certain that I can back my reporting up on it. And that's kind of where I am with a lot of stuff at the moment. I'm not, there is a lot going on, and it's just kind of getting to a point where enough of it is publishable to kind of be able to do something with it. I'm not gonna just shout fire in a crowded theatre kind of thing. Like I said, the really big thing I find interesting is the EIHA need to have held an AGM by the 31st of December. It's the 16th of November, and my knowledge, we don't have a date yet. So that's the thing that I'm kind of keeping my eye on right now. Fascinated to see how that goes. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff kind of going on. We are at the hour mark though, so questions, comments. So otherwise, we're going to start running things down towards the end, as it were. So we'll just double check I've not missed any huge news by not paying attention. Like I say, not anything extra kind of from this afternoon per se. Mara says there's a lot going on, but that's of course is because Mara is almost perpetually busy trying to sort out stats for a league that doesn't keep its stats properly right now. So well done there. Worry for the Caps, yeah. Caps are looking all over the place at the moment. Injuries definitely not helping the Washington Capitals there. Help me. Yeah, well, we'll just keep kicking them until something happens, I think is probably the best thing to say on that one. It's hard to kind of know. Also be interested to hear if anybody signed up for the level 1 referees course in Swindon. I, of course, did not, because I don't skate well enough. I always find it really interesting as well when people shout about, oh, if you think you can do a better job, then you should do it as well. Most of those people who are shouting, you wouldn't want them to be refs. I always find that a very strange thing for people to sort of say, oh, you think you could do better? Well, that's not necessarily how it works. If you pay your money, you have the right to kind of have an opinion. What it should be is kind of like try and make your opinion informed. I think is probably the thing I would kind of encourage people to do more. But a lot of people are not well suited to being officials, and actually we kind of need to figure that out. And yes, it's a development process, but we've seen what happens in terms of development with officials. They don't necessarily get the support they deserve or need, so it's quite a hard one at the moment. Right, anyway, I think we'll say last call very quickly then for questions, comments, or anything like that. We're over the hour mark now, so just going to keep let bits and pieces keep going on that. But thank you very much, of course, for joining us this evening. Lots to happen. A Friday night game for me, which is going to be different. Trying to get the Basingstoke at Cilia, sort of leaving here at about. Given that I live in Southampton, so I'm a 40-minute drive away from Basingstoke. We're talking probably given warm up, I'll probably start at 7:20. I'll probably be leaving here about sort of 6:30, 6:35. 21 goals for Disco in 17 games. Yep, thank you for reminding me about that, as we're missing one of the best defensemen in the National Division. I'm really interested to see what the Bison do in terms of trying to contain Milton Keynes, because we're struggling to score goals against a team that really scores goals. So, we can't turn this into a firefight. For me, really, the only thing that the Bison need to do is just win. And I don't necessarily care how they do it right now. if we need to make it ugly, let's make it really bloody ugly. I think is probably the way to do it. And actually, the Bison don't do very well against MK don't do very well against MK in MK for whatever reason. It's just the rink we don't perform well in. But we sometimes do all right at home against MK, and I think we've got to use that for for our advantage a little bit, as it were. Just seeing here, actually, a little bit of an interesting thing here. Hamilton Bulldogs owner Michael Andlauer and Oshawa Generals owner Rocco Tullio have formed a partnership in a bid to buy the Ottawa Senators, according to Bruce Garriock of the Ottawa Sun. So that'll be interesting for any Sens fans out there. Obviously, some talk of Ryan Reynolds looking at trying to buy the Ottawa Senators as well. So it looks like there's more than one group. Try that in MK. Didn't work, Anthony. No, it didn't. We didn't do anything in MK. There was no plan in MK. We just didn't play very well. And we never did. It is what it is. It is what it is on that front. I think like I say, hopefully it'll work a bit better at home where we've got the advantage of our ridiculous rink. That makes no sense. Right, either way, I think it's time to finish up. We will call it there. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for everything related to the Basement Bison for the last 11, nearly 12 years. Crazy to think this is how I've spent my free time for that long. Player comings, player goings, match reports, all kinds of crazy stuff related to the Bison. The dates all the way back into 2011, as well as our hockey story series, touching on the weird, wonderful, and bizarre world of hockey, dating as far back as the 19th century all the way to the present day, mostly in Britain, but we've gone behind the Iron Curtain, as far away as America and Canada and all kinds of crazy places, into continental Europe, you name it, we've written about it, and there's lots of great things there under our hockey stories tag. The back catalogue of the BOTW podcast is still there, as well as our tabletop ice hockey simulation game, Dice Hockey. It's really easy to play. You can download everything for free over on the website. All we ask is that if you do enjoy it, please consider chucking in a donation to Parkinson's UK. My dad was a very early diagnosis. He got diagnosed with Parkinson's at 54, and he's now 64. So he's been dealing with it for a decade. So if you could, that'd be great to chuck some money that way if you really enjoy it. But a bunch of stuff is all there for your entertainment. Lots to read, lots to check out over on bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Facebook.com/bannersonthewall is the Facebook page if you like getting bits and pieces through your Facebook feed. Every article from the website will go through the Facebook feed as well, so you can easily pick up stuff from there. But the best place to interact with me, pick up the bits and pieces that are happening that I'm up to, whether it's whether it's written, whether it's audio, whatever, is over on our Twitter at BannersOTW. And of course, we are here Wednesday nights throughout the season. We are now here in our new home at YouTube, which I think is working better for us than Twitter Live. Twitter Live started to die on us a little bit, which I don't think helped. So we are now, like I say, here on YouTube, Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. for the NHL's first and as far as we're only live show to cover every result of every division, all 5 across the NHL. It's the BOTW What's Current stream. And there we go. Another week of the NHL done and dusted. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. And of course, it's YouTube. It's so much easier to watch back now. So do spread the word, tweet, share, whatever it is. You know, the more people who join in, the better. There isn't enough eyes on the NHL, and there's so much good stuff going on. It's more reasonable to watch me than to try and think of NHL sides joining the Elite League Challenge Cup, for example, which was utterly bonkers. If you're going to get drunk at night. Don't get drunk at 4:30 on a Monday. But either way, whatever happens, try and do what you can. Be happy. And if you can't be happy, then please, please, please do be safe. As my friend Scott Owens would say, take care of yourself and somebody else. For bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe. And so long till next time. And if you're coming down from MK, we'll see you Friday night in Basingstoke. Wherever you get your hockey this weekend. Take care, everybody. See you soon.